What if your life isn't hard because God gave you too little or too much? What if it feels hard because you're gripping what he already asked you to release? The Bible tells us better one handful of tranquility than two full of toil. Let that sit for a minute, because it's not just a verse about money. It's about other things. It's about having too many things, what we're holding. I'll confess my story as we get to the end, because I'm so guilty of this, of gripping. It's about things we keep calling responsibility that are actually fear. We're calling things excellence when it's actually striving. We're calling things sacrifice when it's control. We're exhausted. God didn't assign that to us. Gripping too much. It can look noble on the outside, looking always busy, always available, caring for everybody else, trying to prove something. And the world does clap for that. The woman who carries too much can still smile. The man who puts on a brave face, everyone thinks is just so strong. But it's bondage. It's pride dressed up as responsibility. And that's hard to hear. But we're trying to be good. We're trying to be faithful. We're trying to be useful. We want to live life to the fullest. We want to serve others. Bills need to be paid. Ministry needs to be done. Kids need to be cared for. Our adult parents need to be cared for. But many of us have stopped asking, God, is this what you want for me? I don't think he picked us for pressure. He didn't pick us for guilt. He didn't pick us for feeling disappointed that we always feel like we can't have enough time, enough of anything. Our hands are full. Our hearts are tired. One handful of peace, that's what he wants. Not two handfuls of gripping and clapping for others and for ourselves. One handful of tranquility. Think about that. We need to have our hands open, our hands lifted up in prayer. We, of course, need to work. We need to have purpose. We need to have forward movement, but we also need to have peace. And we need to be honest. We need to know, are we just striving for ourselves, or are we actually striving for what God has asked us to do? And he never wants us to truly strive. He wants us to be obedient. We ask for peace, but we take on more commitments. We take on more projects. We seek other ways to prove ourselves, other ways to show up for others. But peace can feel like a threat, and it goes deep, because if we actually go for peace, we feel like we have to open our hands and let go of some of these things. And if we let go and let God, what would actually happen? That's emotionally, it can feel dangerous. But God has a better way. Toil can sometimes feel like our identity. I know that because I lived it. And when we don't toil and struggle, we feel like that's maybe being lazy or weak. Our exhaustion we wear as a badge of honor. Okay. And I did it for years. A struggle does not make us more holy. And we need to know that. We don't need to be people pleasing. We need to have boundaries. And Jesus never promised life without trouble. But the burden that God puts on us, he says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. His yoke is for us to feel, yes, things can be work. They can be challenging at times, but they shouldn't crush our soul. They shouldn't destroy our peace, steal our joy, break our heart, create resentment. Here's a serious question. Did God give us this? The false nobility of struggle is not a brand to wear. Being the strong one all the time. I know. Being the one that can handle anything and smile through it. So, surrender is something that feels scary, because if we're used to controlling, that idea of surrendering, that feels anything but peaceful sometimes. It feels like panic. We're waiting for God to give us peace. We're waiting for the external things to give us peace. But it's internal. Peace is a choice. We just keep pushing and pushing. And we stay up later, we get up earlier, we absorb more stress, we say yes again. The better question for us to ask is, instead of, God, how can you fix this? How can you fix my external circumstance? You say, maybe, God, open my hands and my heart and my mind to what you really want me to do in this season. Being obedient to the promptings. And sometimes that's going to disappoint people, because if we're being obedient to God, sometimes that's a yes to him and a no to somebody else. Peace requires release. That image of a handful of peace and having this other open hand to receive what God has for us, rather than two hands gripping and toiling. Release. And that release can feel like insecurity for a moment, but we can rely on God. God is our provider. The work isn't the issue. Our family is not the issue. Success is not an issue, but what's going on in our heart? Are we approaching this with open hands and open hearts? Are we gripping with pressure versus peace? Two closed fists cannot receive. Two closed fists cannot lift in worship. Two closed fists cannot press through with breakthrough. God's telling us to put some things down. He's not withholding from us. We need to reset. We don't need to quit everything. We don't need to be irresponsible or pretend that things don't exist, but we need to bring everything under the authority of God. Lord, what do you want me to carry? What do you want me to release? Where am I chasing the wind? Where am I confusing exhaustion with purpose? It's a dangerous prayer, but it's a freeing prayer. God, align me with your purpose. Take away this counterfeit weight that I'm carrying, that you never wanted me to carry. He's not going to leave us empty-handed. He's the God of provider. He's the God of purpose and peace. We just need to maybe physically just lift our hands and release. Maybe we need to stop glorifying our struggle. Stop assuming that peace means that we're doing something wrong. Stop measuring our obedience by exhaustion. Stop gripping on what God's asking us to turn to him. 2 handfuls of toil. It's not holier. It's a fight or flight mode, which I lived in my entire life. Surrender means opening those hands. A soul that can breathe, a soul that can receive. Not how can I do more? What can I release? If something doesn't feel like it's from the Holy Spirit and it's a heck yeah, then it's a bleep no. That's hard. I struggle. I don't have this figured out. For most of my life, I would have called myself greedy. I would have called myself selfish. I was prideful. I was chasing after the wind. I probably would have called myself driven at other times, ambitious, successful, responsible. But I was chasing the wrong things. If I'm being honest, most of my life, my hands were full of stuff. I wanted more and more and more and more and more, and I gripped tighter and tighter and tighter. But now that I see things clearly, I know that it was just grasping at the wind, and I had nothing. It's ugly to admit, but it's true. Now I can be generous versus selfish because I release. I chose pressure, and now I can choose peace. I can approach God with open hands. I wasn't living surrendered for my whole life. I was living defended my whole life. I had no peace, but I had such a beautiful life that God was trying to give me. I had to confront things when I was saved. I have to look at what I was chasing, what I was running from, that constant fight or flight that drove me. I had good reasons for being a not very good person, but that's not okay once you know God's truth, that he can free us from that. So the striving and the controlling, I had to let go. God does not want to take from us. He wants our heart back. Ask yourself, what am I gripping? I'm not saying this from a place of judgment. I have to ask myself this all the time. What am I holding back from God? What am I chasing that's costing me my peace? What am I calling ambition that's actually insecurity? What am I calling responsibility that's actually fear? What am I calling wisdom that's really control? Because the goal is not to walk through life empty-handed. The goal is to stop feeling enslaved to what's in your hands. One handful of peace is not a smaller life. It's the beginning of a freer one. Lord, show us what we're gripping. Show us where we're confusing striving with success. Show us where we're gripping things that are not ours to hold. What's the difference between responsibility and control? Where's the difference between living a life in peace versus pressure? I don't want to be passive, Lord. Use me. I will walk and work in your ways. But this is a surrendered heart. There's more for us. There's more for us. The more we can turn over, the more we can receive. And it feels counterintuitive if you're new to this, but the more we can release to God, the more we can open up to receive what he really has for us. Don't wait for God to bless you or to take away the pressure or to change your external environment, and then you'll feel peace. Or wait for your environment to change or your work to change, your family to change, everybody else to change for you to feel peace, because it won't come. It is a choice to live surrendered, is a choice to open your hands, open your heart, open your mind, to reveal what lies you've been living in, to reset the patterns that are broken, to renew yourself with God's truth and what he wants for you, and to restore your life by walking it out in small, faithful actions. It's not a magic overnight, open your hands, open your heart, and one and done. It's a constant turning things over to God, searching your heart each day, recognizing where we may be picking things back up again. I had so much and I gripped and I never enjoyed it. I mean, the gripping and the holding and the striving and the fighting and the always feeling like something was going to go wrong because I never was able to enjoy what I had. And now that I can live with trust that whatever I've been given is from God, I can enjoy it. And I don't feel like I have to fight for it. I don't feel like I have to be in fear that I'm going to lose it, because if it goes away, God has something else for me. And do I struggle with this still? Do I still have fear? Of course, anxious thoughts come in, but every day I need to renew my mind and take the next faithful step. And some of these videos, I know they're so imperfect, but I keep doing them. I keep doing podcasts. I keep writing and I keep sharing, and knowing that some of it's not perfect. None of it's perfect. But God's put this on my heart. This is what I'm called to do in this season, and I'm being obedient. So if this blessed you, like and share, comment. I'd love feedback. I'd love suggestions on what you may want to hear about in this season. But for now, if you can just open your hands, open your heart, live surrendered. And it's not as easy as it sounds, but it is so much freer. You can break the chains, you can break the bondage you're in by gripping, release, and live restored. God bless.